Hi everyone, it's Nikki here from the Eat Well Project, and today we are going to make some tasty baked falafels with flatbread and a yogurt dip, all from the step-by-step cookbook, and some lovely illustrations in there. Don't worry if you haven't got this book, guys. I'm going to give you all the details that you'll need to bake this fantastic dish today. Right then guys, we'll get on with the baked falafel to start with. So let's have a quick look. Before we start, we need to make sure we've washed these hands. Yes, make sure they're nice and clean before we start cooking. So let's have a look at what we're going to put in our baked falafel. So the most important ingredient, the main ingredient, is these chickpeas. Tin chickpeas I'm using. Chickpeas are fantastic because they're full of protein, so they're really good for vegans and vegetarians as a meat replacement. They're also full of fibre, which is really good to make us feel fuller for longer, and plenty of vitamins and minerals, so really, really good. Now when they first come out tin, they look a bit like that, guys. And all I've done with these is I've put them in my food processor and mashed them down. You could do this by hand, either by chopping or mashing, but you want that sort of finish. Don't go too far because you want them fairly rough. We've also then got some spices we're going to put in. So we've got cumin and coriander ground. We've got some flat leaf parsley. Now if you haven't got any flat leaf parsley fresh, you can use dried, but remember that you only use half the amount of dried to fresh. So that's just something to remember. We've got garlic, which you need to crush. If you haven't got a crusher, you can chop it by hand. Lemon juice, so just to squeeze a lemon juice. If you haven't got a lemon, if you've got some lemons, lemon juice in the fridge, or even lime juice will do. We've also got some baking powder and some plain flour at the back here, and some olive oil. And lastly, you might want a little bit of salt and pepper to season them. Okay, so in go the chickpeas to start with, that I've sort of roughly chopped, or you can roughly chop, a tin full, 400 grams. In that goes. And then next we are going to add our spices, a teaspoon of the cumin and half a teaspoon of the coriander. In that goes. And we're going to put in the crushed garlic, which is half a teaspoon. In that goes. And then we are going to get our spoon and just give that a quick stir. And then the flat leaf parsley, which you need a tablespoon of chopped. In that goes. Rough chop, doesn't have to be really special. So give it a stir, nice sort of incorporate it, stir it together. Now if you've got a food processor, you can do this all in a food processor, but this is much more fun, I think. So just a quick stir, and now we're going to add the binding ingredients. So in goes the half a teaspoon of baking powder. And then we're going to put in a tablespoon of plain flour. Very difficult to get at the moment, so if you've got self-raising, don't worry, pop in self-raising, it's not going to matter. And then we also need to put our tablespoon of lemon juice. If you haven't got it, it's not the end of the world, guys, you can still not a problem. And we've also got half a tablespoon of olive oil, and in that goes. So we're going to give that a stir, bind it all together, and this will help it stick together so as we can make our falafels. So we give it a nice bind together. And if it does look a little bit dry, you could add a little bit of water, but I think that looks good. I think if you like a bit of seasoning, you could add a little bit of pepper, if you like, just a few twists. And salt, we can add a little bit of salt. So probably just one twist of salt there. You don't have to add either of those. And so I think we're ready to give them a roll. Okay, so we're just going to get our hands in now, and this makes 8 balls, but it's completely up to you. You might want to do them a different size. It really doesn't matter. I'm going to make it into 8, so I'm going to roll it into a ball like that. I'm going to move this bowl away now, and so I get nice even ones. I'm going to break it in half, and then I'm going to break it in half again. So I know that each of these quarters need to go into half, and that will make my 8 falafels. So just flatten them like that. Should we do another one? So they can look a bit like that. Completely up to you though, you might want to do them slightly different than me. So I'm just rounding them and then just giving them a flat. So there we are, I've done the 8. fairly even. It doesn't really matter, does it? But they'll all cook evenly if you've got them the right size. So what I'm going to do now, guys, is put those into my fridge for about 25 minutes. So while that's happening, we will start to prepare the flatbreads. So 4 main ingredients for our flatbreads next. So we've got 125 grams of self-raising flour. You can sieve that, it doesn't really matter if you don't. And then we want 1/4 teaspoon of salt. This is a 1/2 teaspoon, so obviously I'm going to have half of that. In that goes. And then 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder. In that goes. And whisk that round. So get a spoon and just go round and round like that, just to incorporate it all together. Make what I call a well in the middle, and then get your 125 grams of plain yogurt. I've got a fat-free one there, doesn't matter, whatever you've got. Tip that all in, and then get your spoon, or you could use a knife if you want, and just gradually incorporate it all in, like so. If you find it's a little bit wet, you can add a little bit more flour. Sometimes they stick, so I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of flour onto my hands, like so, and then just put my hand in and bring it all together. It takes a few minutes. I wouldn't be tempted to add any more liquid at the moment, because as you can see, it's gradually coming together, and we don't want it too wet, else it gets really sticky. So that's looking pretty good, everybody. So what we're going to do now is we're going to bring it out of the bowl onto, can you see? It's all gone. Onto the worktop. And I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of flour. This is just plain flour I've got in my, what we call our dredger, but you can just sprinkle some on the board, whatever you've got, self-raising, plain, whatever, onto there. And we're just going to knead that for just a few, probably at the most, about 30 seconds. Now we need to cover it and leave it on the side whilst we finish the falafels and do the yogurt dip. So a quick dip to go in with our falafels, and we're going to use 1/8 of a cucumber. We're going to use 50 grams of some plain natural yogurt, and I've got some fresh mint here out of my garden, and you need a tablespoon, but if you haven't got fresh mint, remember what I said, you can use dried, but remember to use half the quantity. So this is really simple, guys. You put in your yogurt into a bowl. I'm only making a very small amount. And then you're going to put your 1/8 of a cucumber, and all I've done is chop that finely. If you like it chunky, do it chunkier. It's your creation. And then finally, I'm going to put in a tablespoon of my chopped mint. I've chopped it fairly roughly. In that goes. If you don't like mint, try something different. You don't need to put it in. Give it a stir. You might want to put a little bit of salt and pepper for a bit more flavour. You might want to have it just like that. Just have a little try, see what you think. And that's your simple yogurt dip. So I've preheated my oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit, 190 fan or gas mark 5. They're going to bake in the oven for 25 minutes. So I'm just going to take the last one off the plate. They've been chilling in the refrigerator and onto the greaseproof paper. You don't need greaseproof paper, you can just put them direct onto the baking sheet. It just cuts down on the washing up. Okay, so our flatbreads, guys, has been resting. So I'm going to get some flour and dredge it all over the worktop. This is the fun bit. So, and a little bit on my hands and take it off. So it's still pretty sticky, don't worry about that. Give it a quick roll. And what we're going to do is we're going to make 4 large ones. Now if you want to make smaller ones, make smaller ones. It's your bit of flatbread, so however you want it. So I'm going to cut them each piece into quarters. If you want to make them small, you might want to do them to 1/8, whatever. And then all I'm going to do is put those to one side, make this one into a circle or a round, a bit like that. And then I'm going to get my rolling pin. Now to stop the flatbread sticking to my rolling pin, just get a little bit of flour on your hands and then just flour the rolling pin, and hopefully it won't stick. So we're just going to give it a few rolls around like that. You don't want to get too much flour because it can make it a bit dry. And now we've got to get our falafels in there, a bit of salad in there and a bit of yogurt. So you don't have to make them round, you could make them like pita breads, you could make them oval, however you want to do it. I don't know what shape you call that, but that's probably the right size, something like that. So once you've got them rolled out, get your pan, and you need to get it really hot to start with, and then probably bring it down to about a medium heat before you put anything in. You dry fry these, so pick it up, pop it in the middle. They take about 1 minute to 2 minutes on each side, depending on how hot your pan is. And they should start to rise up. Now when they start rising up, don't flatten them down, because they should rise up. So there's some bubbles appearing on the top now, which is exactly what we want. Just keep our eye on the bottom, that we've got the pan. Oh, look at that. That looks absolutely beautiful. Now when you're doing this, children, you probably need an adult, because what I just did then by touching it is very, very hot. So I think now, perhaps with the help of an adult, I've got my spatula and I'm going to turn it over. Whoa, look at that. And as I say, you don't need any oil, you don't need any flour in the pan, it's just dry fry. So they're really, really healthy, these are. Oh wow, I think that's going to be done. So what I suggest we do then is we put it on the plate like that, and then we're just going to fold it. Now a little bit of help from the adults here, because that is pretty hot, guys. We're going to make ourselves like a little beak. And then we're going to, when the falafels are done and the salad, when I've done it, we're going to pop it all in. So the final bit, guys, we've got everything made and baked and cooked. I've even made a little salad to go in. I've just put a little bit of chopped cucumber, a bit of tomato and some lettuce, whatever you've got, a little bit of seasoning and some dressing on. This is obviously really important, because that's one of your 5 a day. We've got our yogurt dip, and here they are, your baked falafels. Don't they look delicious? So what we're going to do now is we're going to assemble it however you want, really, guys. I'm a bit messy with this. So I am going to get some of this lovely, lovely salad, because I really love salad. And then I'm going to have, I'm going to have 3 because they look so good. Well, actually, I don't think I'm going to get 3 in there, am I? Let's go for 2 then. And then some of this lovely yogurt dip on top. This looks a bit messy to eat, guys, but who's looking? Doesn't really matter, does it? So off we go like that. So here we go. This is going to be really messy, I know. So let's try. Wow. So good, guys. So good. You really, excuse me. Obviously had too big a mouthful then. You really need to try this, guys. It is delicious. Good luck, and I'll see you on the next video.